This podcast is brought to you by Steede Motor Group, Claregalway. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, find out more at steedemotorgroup.ie.
So I'm joined now by former Killererin football Tom Hughes and GMIT Sigerson manager as well, Tom Hughes, to look ahead to round 2 of the Senior Football Championship and the opening round of the Intermediate Championship. That's what we'll look into today. Now it's a big weekend this weekend in the club championship, so it'll be interesting to see what teams can step it up a bit and the groups will begin to take a bit of shape. Have you enjoyed the club action so far, Tom?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's great. It's great to be getting back into it, especially after the county scene finishing. And fairness, now kind of after the first round, after this week, you'll be getting a clearer picture on the big teams under pressure at the bottom, or some teams there'll be teams under different pressures for different variety of reasons. And fairness, it's great. It's a lovely way to pass the Sunday evening, Saturday evening, go into Tuam or Corofin or somewhere and watch the games. It's just kind of even some of our lads from the college, or a good few lads that we'd have involved with academies, they're starting to come on to the senior teams, and it's nice to see them progress up.
Do you miss playing in the senior championship?
Well, I'd say now I'm more suited to junior D at the moment, I won't lie. You'd miss back in the day, you'd miss out Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock or that, but geez, that's a long time ago.
When you probably think of senior championship, you think it's a long time ago you were playing. But then, do you think sometimes you can take it for granted when you look at your own club, Killererin, now you're an intermediate? Like, do you think sometimes, like, you took it for granted being a senior football team?
Yeah, well, look, kind of there was years there from I started playing 2004 to kind of 2010. We won the county final to the last one, and kind of every year you were thereabouts. And look, I wouldn't say we took it for granted, but it's looking back on it, then we didn't realise how good we had it. In fairness, but look, we had some great times. It's like everything in life; it comes in cycles. Hopefully, we'll come again, and if young lads start coming again, and we'll be thereabouts again if we can get up out intermediate. But it's kind of, we were kind of lucky at the time. Everyone knows who the lads we had, and then we just kind of group of young lads that came all together in one bunch, and that was it. We were thereabouts. But sure, look, nothing stays the same in life, and hopefully we'll be back again maybe in a few years, or get going again. Hopefully get up out intermediate this year.
You spoke there about you've worked in the academy level. You've also worked with GMIT. But if there's one particular player that you've worked with, like that's came through and's really impressing at club level, who would it be for you?
Johnny McGrath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What his development like? What has it surprised you how quick it's been, or did you just know instantly?
No. In fairness, like we had him now there in the college for the last few years. I had him at under 14 level, and I just remember even at under 14, I was like, this lad is wow. But even the college level, we had him 3 or 4 years, and you could just see, you could see what was good. I was expecting what happened this year with him. Like, he's top player, like, in fairness, so top, in fairness. You wouldn't mind in any club having 20 Johnny McGraths, in fairness, top lad, in fairness.
What was it that stood out straight away?
Oh, just determination, and like it's not often you can see a defender that can defend one-on-one with him, and geez, he'd go through a brick wall. He'd go through, even there now during the winter in the Sigerson games, and my God. You could just leave him one-on-one with oceans of space, and you knew you were sound. Like, there was never going to be a problem. I remember there we played. Who was it? We played even last year in the Trench Dundalk, in Tuam Stadium, and they had the full forward. From Monaghan. From Monaghan. Gary. And like he gave him such a bait, and your man just ended up going out midfield, and like he definitely had at least a foot on him, but he just couldn't handle it. I think he'll go right really to the top. But then there's loads of other good, brilliant lads as well. We've a few very good lads that, were great lads even last year in GMIT. Your Conor Raftery's, your Liam Costello's, your Owen Mannion's, your Nathan Granger's, all these type of guys, that James Foley's. They're young lads, and you'll hear loads more about them in the next year or two, I'd expect.
So to get in to preview the senior first, the first game in the senior, Tom, is on Saturday at 1:30 in Kenny Park. It's the Group 3 clash between Montpellier Maigh and St. Michael's. There was maybe a few concerns early on for Montpellier going into the first round, just with a couple of the injuries they had, but they're really impressed when you consider without Owen Finnerty, without Michael Daly, and without Patrick Kelly against Claregalway. Now, Michael's are coming into this one after a narrow enough victory over Dunmore McGill's.
Yeah, like Montpellier, in fairness, they had a very good win. Like Montpellier, they're going to be thereabouts, and you can, like, they'll be only priming to get going for another couple of weeks. The likes of Corofin themselves, like, so. It was a good win. It was a good win for them. Like, I remember you'd hear and stuff there at the league, Montpellier not growing well, but like the championship teams that are going to be in the last four, they're not going to train it to be peaking early May or early June, or they don't need peak then. So I wouldn't be too worried. Like, geez, when you see the players that they have, they're going to be there or thereabouts. Like, the good win, I think it was 2-11 to 1-8 over Claregalway. Now I think Claregalway were missing Nathan Granger. He'd be lost to them as well, but Montpellier are going to be in the top. They're going to be in the top four no matter what. Like, St. Michael's, even when we were going well, St. Michael's, they were always a tough team to beat. They're a real good championship team, real good stalwarts. They're good, very well run club, and some good young lads coming through. So probably won't have it all their own way. In fairness, Michael's will give a game. They'll give a game to anyone. In fairness.
Just, you touched on James Foley there. I was about to say, you're speaking about Montpellier. Like, something they've actually done this year is James Foley was actually higher up the pitch than usually. Like, usually we see him as a wing back, but he seems to be playing wing forward against Claregalway. But it doesn't seem like it's much of a difference for James Foley, especially with the running power he has.
Yeah, he's a top player. He's a top player, in fairness, and look, he'd be in fairness, he's a very, very good athlete as well. And from wing back or wing forward, he'd be a threat. Now, I don't know about his shooting. I'm only joking. No, I'm only joking. He's a very, very, very good club player, and I'm sure he'll have his eye on having a good club championship, trying to work his way back into the Galway squad again.
Yeah, that definitely one thing the teams, to be honest, mind. Like, for Michael's, how do Michael's try and approach this one to cause an upset this weekend?
Well, Michael's will have their own way. I'd say they just tear into them. As I said, they're a very good championship team. They're always hard bet against anyone. They'll give a game to anyone. I suppose they'll have the certain lads that they'll have to try and mark, and then they try and keep it tight at the back maybe and get a few scores. And I'd say that Michael's, they'd like to get into a dogfight and take their chances from there. But Michael's will be no walker. There won't be a walkover for anyone.
It just seems to be the thing. Like, Eamon Brannigan's still in New York at the minute. It's a big loss. Gary Higgins and Eddie Hoare didn't take part. You nearly feel Montpellier can cope with a few absentees, but Michael's, you really feel like they obviously wanted Brannigan, but you really feel like they need Gary Higgins and Eddie Hoare back this weekend.
Oh yeah, Gary Higgins, we had him in the college as well. He's a good, very good player. Like, that's probably the difference between the top 4 or 5 clubs. Like, Montpellier could, last year they were without Oisin Moore and Michael Daly, and they were still thereabouts. They've strengthened that. Probably there's only 3 or 4 clubs that probably in Galway, if there is even, probably themselves, Corofin, Cuilinn, that have that, that real strength and depth that they can afford to be losing 1 or 2 players like that and still be okay.
Do you expect Montpellier to win that one in Kenny Park?
I do, yeah, but not. I don't think it'll be a walkover. I think Michaels won't lie down. I think they'll give a good account of themselves, and probably Montpellier might just pull away at the end.
Yeah, they're obviously they're obviously the two teams at the top of the group in Group 3. Are obviously you have obviously the two teams at the top of the group there, Michaels and Montpellier, as I was saying there. And the other game in the group, we have Tuam and Claregalway, Sunday evening at 4:15 in Tuam Stadium. It's a game. It's probably the game of the weekend to look forward to, Tom.
Yeah, geez, it's hard. That's a hard one now to call. That's a hard one to call. Claregalway, I know probably not many people probably would have fancied them to beat Montpellier, or but they're kind of coming, and they've probably yet to hit the reel to really get there. But like the players that they have on their day, they can be a very dangerous team. So they'll be under a bit of pressure now against Tuam. Tuam, very decent team. Kind of they're in that top 4 again. They'll give a game to anyone. So it's a very, very hard one to call. Very hard.
A must win for both, isn't it?
It will.
You just seem to be losing you there, Tom.
It's definitely. They're always under a bit of pressure now from that game, and it won't be easy for them. But it'll show an awful lot about their character to get a reaction after the Montpellier game. I'm not sure if Nathan Granger, I know he's in America. I'm not sure if he's back or not. But he'll be a big addition to this plan.
Yeah, just with Claregalway, they lost their first game. Obviously at the hands of Montpellier. If they lose this one, they're going to put themselves under serious pressure to come out of this, because the 2 losses to open your campaign isn't how they're going to want to start this. And Tuam, after having a good league campaign, just came up short against Corofin, and they're going to want to set down America this weekend.
Yeah. In fairness to Tuam, Radox over them there, and they were very unlucky. I think it was on penalties that they got bet against Corofin. So, like, in fairness, they've some great stalwarts there that are there for the last 10 years, and they're bringing through a few younger lads as well, and keeping it fresh. And they've Tuam have firepower up front as well. They've Brian Mannion on his day. They can kick. He can kick scores. Cormac McAlter, these type of guys that they're good lads. They're good, very good club players.
How do you see this one unfolding?
I think it'll be very tight. I wouldn't be putting my life on it, but if I was forced to, I think Tuam.
Why?
I just think Tuam are there. Tuam are thereabouts the last 3 or 4 years, and they're a hard team to beat. Like, even all the top teams have struggled against them now. Claregalway have a bit to prove. They have to prove. In my eyes, Claregalway have a bit to prove.
And can they prove this? That's the big question. There's so much talk every year about potential. Can they go out and prove this? Obviously, Nathan Granger and Jack Lim are missing opening round. It definitely feels like they need them now this weekend.
Oh yeah, like they're 2 class players, like young player of the year. And Nathan Granger's in the Galway squad, and they've very good names on paper. Conor Campbell is another very good player. They've Aidan Monaghan, these lads. I think Aidan Monaghan's out, but they have serious potential, but they probably have to do it yet, in my eyes.
Yeah, Conor Campbell, obviously, he's out with a shoulder injury this year. So
he's a shoulder, yeah. He'd be a big loss, but just they've serious potential, but they'd probably like to be getting, they'd probably even the Montpellier get.
Just losing you there a bit, Tom.
Oh yeah, they probably, I thought now that against Montpellier as well, like, Montpellier would be a hard bet, but I thought that might be a little bit tighter. That might have been a little bit tighter, but geez, Tuam would be a hard bet. Tuam are a very good championship team.
Yeah, it's definitely a game of the weekend. That's one of the games on Sunday on the Galway streaming service. The other game on Sunday is at 6 o'clock in Tuam Stadium. It's Salthill and Cara coming up against Killererin. It didn't go well for either of these sides, Tom, in the opening round.
No. No, Salthill, I didn't see that game. I know they were missing, I think, John Maher and Robert, two massive losses. Like John Maher, in fairness to him, was a super year with Galway. And Robert Finnerty, we all know what he can do. Like at club level, they'll be massive losses. So they'll be under a bit of pressure. This week. Carla Strand, I think they were beaten by a point. They got a few late goals, but they won't be happy with scoring 2 points in 60 minutes of football. So it's it's both of them have something. Like Salthill no one expected Salthill to lose by that much to Corofin, to be honest. So both of them are kind of the backs to the wall.
With Salthill, there was obviously much rumours around Jack McCaffrey transferring to them, and obviously that's not happening. But the rumour mill did start that he was in, but he is only in training with them. For Salthill, it went so wrong against Corofin. You could tell they were off it even without their 2 players this weekend. Like you presume you're going to see a different animal this weekend, though.
Yeah, well, you'd expect that. Like that's the great chance with even with the league format. Like it's not the end of the world. I know Salthill losing against Corofin, they wouldn't want it, but it's not. At least they have a chance now straight away 2 weeks later to put it right. And you know, Salthill are going to be thereabouts when they get them 2 lads and get everyone back going. They're going to be you know.
We're just losing it there, Tom. I think you're covering.
Oh, yeah, they were very unlucky. They were very unlucky last year not to win the county final. So you'd be expecting that they'd build on that. They're going to be thereabouts as well. Like.
And then, like as you mentioned, Killererin 2 points from play. It didn't go well for them. I was at that game. They got 3 goals towards the end. They could have snatched it. They didn't. But just with the losses and the players that are out and the players that were tired, I don't know where you listened to our last podcast, but Alan Malloy was on and he was naming out all the players that have left Killererin the last year or two, and it's quite a significant list. Like they really are in a period of transition down there at the moment.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. They have. And Jesus, I remember looking at the team, and kind of there is a lot of names gone. But in fairness, the one thing with Killererin is, I think, if they can just hold for a year or two, you know, they've some very good young lads coming in. So I think their main objective will be kind of to hold if they can hold in senior for a year or two and get these lads in, give them time to find their feet.
He still sees Salthill having too much.
It's hard to look past Salthill, in fairness. Yeah, it's hard to look past Salthill.
Yeah, that's the game in Group B on Sunday evening there in Tuam Stadium. The other game that's taking place in Pearse Stadium then at 3:45 is between near neighbours Barona and Uachtaráid. Barona drawn with Killannin in their round, and they're coming up against Uachtaráid, who had that 1 point win over Killererin. There's obviously 3 that are eventually going to come out, but this kind of feels like if Uachtaráid were to win this, there's momentum behind them, and they're pushing nearly for second spot. If Barona loses it, it'll be a draw after 2 games played. So it's another big game for both of these teams.
Yeah, big. That's it. If and it's another game that I wouldn't be back. I wouldn't stop anyone from backing a draw either. I'd say it could be a very tight game. Jesus, hard call it. It's hard call that game. In fairness to Barona, they seem to be going well, and they had a very good league. They drew, I think, with Killannin, was it 1-6 to 9 points. Like, in fairness to Killannin are there as well. They're a good championship team. You know, they're hard bet. So that was a good point for Barona. That was a good win as well for for Uachtar. So it's hard. It's Jesus hard. I couldn't call that one really, to be honest.
Uachtar, I know they got the result without Ryan Monaghan and Matthew Tierney, but you kind of feel like now as I suppose the rounds kind of come quicker and quicker, the championship's going to gear up, and they're going to want to get those two players back.
Oh, of course they will. Yeah, sure. Like they're two, like Matthew Tierney. No club could afford to lose him. In fairness, he's a top class player, and like for Uachtar as well, to be, for any club to be losing your flagship, he's your main man, he's vice captain of Galway, it'd be a huge loss. But look, and Ryan Monaghan as well, like he's thereabouts. He's in county squads and that, so they'd be rushing to get them boys back whenever they're home. They make an awful difference to them, in fairness. Probably as they go further on, probably won't be able to afford to be without them. In my eyes,
it's probably another game though where you don't expect this to be a high scoring. Like Barona and Uachtar both like to kind of defend with numbers.
Yeah. It's I think it'll be a very tight, cagey game. I couldn't. If you forced me to have a tinner on it, I'd be back in the draw.
There you go. Tom Hughes is giving you a tip for an accumulator this weekend now, if anyone's doing one. You heard it here first. It's very kind of tough one for Killannin when you see the performance Corofin put out in the first round.
Yeah, sure. Like I give him. I think Corofin. I think Corofin. I just like the look of them this year. I think a few good young lads there as well from the under 20s brought in, and they have a mixture of Gary's there full forward, and like even Mike Farrer coming off the bench and that. They just like Liam Silk back, Kieran Malloy back. I thought they were I was in that Tuam game last year in June, and I thought they were very, very unlucky. Like Liam Silk to me is probably the most underrated footballer in Ireland, and to have him back, Kieran Malloy, like we've seen what he did with Galway last year. Then you have these younger lads coming. I think Corofin will take beating this year.
How can Killannin get motivation here? How can Killannin try and pull off the unthinkable?
Look, it's at the end of the day, it's a championship match. It's 15 on 15. Like they have to, you have to approach every game as if you're going to go for it. You cannot just turn up and say, geez, we've no chance here. Like at the end of the day, I don't think Killannin will be looking at Corofin and saying, right, if they get bet by 10 points, that's not the games that are going to be too important to Killannin in that, they're going to try and win the match, obviously, but I'd say that there'd be other matches in that group that they'd be focusing in more on.
And as you mentioned, Corofin looking very good early on, but for Killannin, it's really going to be about containment early on.
Yeah, sure. Look, they'll have to go. In fairness to Killannin, they're another club. There the last few years, no one likes playing them. They're a very proud senior club, and Killannin won't just come up and just stand off Corofin and roll over. They'll get stuck in, and like they've Johnny Heaney and all these type of lads. Like they're lads with great characters. They'll probably try and keep it tight, go defensive. Like it's hard to see past Corofin, and being honest, but Killannin won't roll over and lie down either, I think.
It's really been that depth though, Corofin this year, that they keep, like they're having lads coming in this year. It's looking all like already that the lads coming on like are just as good as the lads starting.
You see,
we're just losing you there, Tom.
It wasn't at the match, but the Salthill and Corofin match. But when I was looking at a program on Twitter or something, match program, like when you see Mike Barr and these lads, and there's so many different options there off the bench, and Brian Cogger and Jack McCabe and all these lads, Gary Sice full forward. It's Liam Silk back here, Malloy back, as I said earlier. it's just they seem to have they seem to have got a few young lads in. They seem to have got a few young lads in to freshen the whole thing up. And as I said, like, you cannot underestimate the return of Louis Silk and Kieran Malloy.
Are they in a great position to win, Frank Fox?
Sorry?
Are they in a great position to win, Frank Fox?
I think I think so. Sure, it's hard to rule them out, and he's a foolish man, I say, back against them.
Their biggest opponents are going to be the reigning county champions, Maigh Cuilinn. They obliterated on Spiddale in the opening round. They're playing St. James's this weekend, and they're looking very good too.
Ah, they are. So look at them. In fairness, I think the few lads as well, Sean Kelly's and Sean Kelly. I think a few lads as well, besides them in America as well. So like they're not even back, and so like they're winning the All Ireland. So like they're going to be serious opposition, say for the likes of Corofin, Mount Ballymaila. They're going to be thereabouts as well. Like they have serious strength and depth. And Joe even said the likes of James McLaughlin, he was as good as not there last year with injury. So I think he'll probably be coming back into the fold. Makes even more options for them.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like James McLaughlin came back, started at midfield. Johnny Maloney came in, the transfer from Offaly, looked really good. But just on Maigh Cuilinn, like you talked about lads being away, but like it mightn't be the worst thing for some of them Maigh Cuilinn lads like Sean Kelly and Peter Cook to be away for the first few rounds, because they have the depth there to cope, and it's given them two players in particular probably a rest and making them refreshed, because it's what they needed when they've been on the road so long.
Oh, I agree for sure. Like I think like you look at Sean Kelly last year, his Sigerson straight hit was back. I'd say he went from the club to Sigerson to county. I'd say Maigh Cuilinn would be delighted to just get out in America, even Peter Cook, and get a break. Like at the end of the day, you have to be realistic, they won't need him till knockout stages. So they'll be back. And in fairness to them lads, they're not going to come back either in bad shape. They look after themselves, and I'm sure they'll be very fresh, ready to go when they come back.
Similar to Killannin, it's a tough task as well. James this weekend.
It's a tough task, but like that again, James is they'll go up, they'll turn over the right arch, they'll have a go at it. As you have Paul and you have Uncle Cannon and all these lads, and they've been around a good while, and they'll have a go at it. But like there's more, I'd say, as regards the group, it's not the results. It's not the results against Maigh Cuilinn that James will be looking for. It's other matches that'll be more important to them. Like it's hard to see how they can beat Maigh Cuilinn, and but they'll turn up and they'll give it a go. And I'd say they down the road, kind of against other matches that'll have more major influence on James as a year.
Yeah, for James as well though, they want to be competitive. Like they because they had a positive result against Down in the opening day out. They're not going to want to get a hiding here either.
No, of course they don't. No team will go out who want to get a hiding. Like, in fairness, James is they want to build a bit of momentum. If they get a good performance and it makes it, if they get a good performance, and then they can build on, get on to the next game, roll on to the next game again. No one wants to get a hiding, and especially as I said, them names I mentioned, they won't. They're very strong characters, and they won't want to get a hiding either by Maigh Cuilinn. They're not going to stand up. They won't stand up. They'll have a go at it, but it's hard to see past Maigh Cuilinn.
Miltown as well. They won that game narrowly against Leicestermore. With on Spiddale and the players they're missing, I think, in the Miltown general, when they seen Leicestermore and Spiddale, no disrespect to either club, but I think at the back of their minds, Miltown were targeting both of these games and saying, right lads, to be in a shape for this group, we need to be on 4 points after 2 games.
Of course they will, yeah. Of course they will, I'm sure, when they looked at it, they'll be winnable games. it's a great chance for Miltown to get 2 out of 2. I'm sure they haven't been the same league that we've never started in. I just think Miltown probably have too much problem.
Yeah, but Spittal as well, they'll kind of be thinking they got the Cullen game out of the way. Now this is kind of the games to come, maybe something they feel they can take from these.
Of course they will, yeah. Of course they will. In fairness, like, no more than games against Cullen. Like, you wouldn't have been trying to beat Cullen in fairness, that's realistic. So at least that game is all done with, but like, in fairness, they'll be, no, Miltown, like, didn't probably fancy themselves as well. Right, we can have a crack at this. You know, the Cullen game is over. I just think I just think Miltown is a realistic team.
Just the final game in the senior championship, just before we get a few predictions about who's going to be in contention for the intermediate championship. It's Annadown versus Letchermore. Both sides had poor days out in the opening round. But particularly from an Annadown perspective, they're going to want to turn this around. They scored 1-4 against St. James's, 1-1 from play, 3 points for frees. It was a bad start, but like if Annadown weren't to get a result here, things can easily go from bad to worse.
Yeah, I think it would have been very disappointing. I think Foster scored 1-4. I think Damon scored 1-3.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, probably unexpected. They'll probably need to expect a bit more from the rest of the forwards, or even like 1-4 is not great scoring. But look, they have a chance against Letchermore. They have a chance to go out and put that right, and then all of a sudden, the way the championship is formed, as we get a win, that James's game is kind of at the back of their minds, and then all of a sudden it can change. So it can change. It can change quick enough, but they'll be under a bit of pressure now. They're under a bit of pressure. They'll be under a bit of pressure to get a result against.
It can really be a turning point here if they were to get.
Massive, yeah, massive. Just one win, and like you can imagine there against after James is a mood of training, and like then all of a sudden you beat Letchermore. It's a totally different mood mindset, a totally different mood of training. Then all of a sudden you're looking forward instead of looking back, and just it can change. One game can change it, especially like the first game as well. Sometimes the first games you can get very funny results, and all of a sudden then if you get a win, you get a bit of momentum. If Annadown got going, they still give a game. They're still there about top 6 or 17. And Jamie Coleman will be a handful at any point. And if we can get him enough ball, and if we can get a bit of help from the rest of the forwards, that club level take a lot of that.
Yeah, just with Letchermore, they obviously came up short by 2 points. This game in Pearse Stadium on Sunday, it takes place before Barona and Killannin. But it probably is one when Letchermore see that scoreline that they'll be looking at this one.
Oh, they will, of course. Yeah, they will, of course. I think after the 11-9, they got hit by Miltown. So it wasn't a whole lot in it. So I'm sure when they've seen the score 1-4, 1-4 down, and James Ray Pines, they'll be giving themselves a good, they'll fancy themselves to have the whole at a down. I don't think they'll fear them. It's a big game now. That's a big game for both clubs.
Who are your contenders this year for the Intermediate Championship? We have a power rankings for the Intermediate Championship coming out later with Barry Cuilinn. I'm sure it's going to cause a lot of debate among clubs, and some clubs are going to have a lot to say about their position. But for you, Tom, who are the contenders this year that you can see really pushing for the Intermediate Championship?
Well, it's hard that Carroll came down. They were there up senior for a long time. They'll be there probably thereabouts. They're a hard team to beat. I know Monavey Abbey are seemingly going awful well. I know Bunchy Roach is over them, and they seem to be going well. They'll be thereabouts. Kilconnelly were in the county final. It's hard. To me, it's wide open. Glenamaddy. I thought Glenamaddy, they've a lot of good young players coming as well. They'll be there. hopefully ourselves, if we're having the bad group, we might have a chance of getting out of that, and if we could build a bit of momentum. You don't know. To me, the intermediate is, Jesus, it's wide open, Like, it's probably, it's wide open. One of the Killing McDade, and they have a lot of lads back playing, and if I was one of Vale, probably thereabouts, but to me it's wide open. It's wide open. A lot of teams there.
Tom, I'm going to get you off that fence now, and who's going to win it?
Bunt will kill me if I don't say Monavale, so I better say Monavale.
They do seem like already, like when you look at the squads through the program, there's a fair squad there from Monavale if they can get things right, but it doesn't always work out like that for teams that come down from senior.
No, geez, no, it doesn't. Especially at intermediate level as well. It's hard to get up senior. It's nearly easier to get up senior than get up senior. It's nearly like in the Premiership and the Championship. But geez, it's awful hard to get up. These games go into dog fights, and it's not easy now. It's not easy. But like, you look at, I've seen a few, like, I know Monavale, like they've some, if they get it together, and in fairness, I think they've been going well, and like, say, even Killererin and them guys, they've a lot of young lads that have played minors and kind of involved in under 20 squads down the last few years back playing. So I think Mike Farrer is training with Bunty, so they were thereabouts. It's hard to know. I'd say Monavale, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't rule out. There's 5 or 6 teams I couldn't rule out.
Yeah, obviously in the intermediate championship, there probably is a bit more comfort for some teams this year because the introduction of the preliminary quarterfinals. But like, if you look across at all the groups, I'll actually just go through the groups here before we finish. So it's Williamstown, St. Brendan's, Ballygare, Oncarua, Glenmaddy in Group A. In Group B, Caltra, Corofin B, which is Corofin's second team, Monavale Abbey and Clifton. And then in Group C, Meath, Brannocks, Porton Shamrocks, Kilconley and Killererin Clonberne. And then in Group D, Ormore, Mary, St. Gabriel's, Killererin, and Tom's own club, Killererin. So there's 8 games in the intermediate championship this weekend, and they're all very difficult to call. It's going to be a really tough championship, and it's very hard to know who will come back up out of that. But that's all we do have time for on the senior preview, and just had a brief look there at the intermediate. We'll have our power rankings as well for the intermediate championship with Barry Cuilinn. So plenty of content for people to get in for there. But that's all we have time for today.